So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you listen to this. This is Machu Medi alongside my good companion, crime Ricardo Medina,
Hello, hello, hello.
along with Tracy Hutchings
Guten Tag.
and Claude Lilford.
Hey, howdy.
And this is a special episode of Retrospect Reviews. Special in the case that, today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most important films, ever, in my opinion. This would be 1989's Do the Right Thing, directed by, the man, the myth, the author himself, Spike Lee. And also alongside with that, I also want to talk about, just briefly, a documentary that I actually literally just watched a few minutes before we even met up online called Copwatch, right? So little background, little explanation as to what's going on here, right? So as far as Do the Right Thing goes, right? I initially wanted to talk about this last year, because the film itself celebrated its 30th anniversary last year. Okay? It came out, I believe it's July the 12th, 1989.
Right.
So, I want to talk about it for that time. But I don't know, like I just felt like it wasn't the right time, me being a Trinidadian and not being able to, relate to, the issues that they talked about, that the show addressed way back when. And, you see different examples of it resonate over the past few decades, right? So I just felt like, maybe it just wasn't the right time for me to talk about this, right? And then lo and behold, a few weeks ago, the time it's recording here, George Floyd happened, right? And
Yeah.
the whole world just went insane, and appropriately so, actually. And it's just these protests and riots and all that kind of stuff in different states in the different states in the US. So I figured now is a good time as any to talk about Do the Right Thing, because 21 years from now is still a relevant film, and we're seeing this right now, right, which we'll get into it a bit. But as for the other film, that would be Copwatch. This was, I believe, the final feature film to be screened at a little special online film festival called We Are One, right? So it's more or less like this conglomerate, if you will, of like all these different film festivals from all over the world, including like Tribeca, Cannes, and basically they were just screening shorts and VR films and feature-length films from a few years ago, even some interviews with filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro, Francis Ford Coppola, actors like Zhang Ziyi, Tessa Thompson, so on and so forth, right? So I was keeping my eyes to it. It had a few good films actually. One that I actually kind of recommended you guys to check out. That would be Crazy World. That's a Ugandan film.
Right.
Yeah, which is hilarious and just insane, but y'all need to check it out. But yeah, the last film that was screened, well, actually, I saw it like literally a few minutes ago before we met up online. It's called Copwatch, right? I just figured just talk about it briefly because, yeah, this kind of relates to what we're going to talk about here with Do the Right Thing. Yeah, so Copwatch is a documentary directed by Camilla Hall. It's centered on a organization called We Copwatch, right? Which began actually with a guy called Jacob. Didn't get the surname, and pretty much he started off, in the pretty much the era, like the late era actually, when Cops the TV show was still relevant, right? And he was kind of taking the role of, he would just go around just documenting police activity. You know what I mean? If a guy is being arrested or being accosted by the police, he will just film it, right? And then just put it up online for people to see. And from there, now he just took notice of other individuals who pretty much did the same thing, but they just did it off of their phones. So they zeroed in on three people who were involved in, three cases that we, that we are aware of actually through just social and cultural osmosis. So the first guy is David Witt from St. Louis, sorry. He was the guy who pretty much filmed Michael Brown, right? The late Michael Brown, right?
Right.
Second guy was Ramsey Orta. That's a name probably you guys would know about if you're familiar with the Eric Garner case, you know what I mean, from Staten Island. And the last person is Kevin Moore from Baltimore, actually, who pretty much filmed Freddie Gray when he was screaming in pain, and then the police took him in, and then they put out this report that, oh, you know what I mean, because of this
Yeah, right.
injury to his spinal cord, he died. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, they call
yeah,
you right. Yeah.
yeah, and just and they show all three videos though, and still to this day, still rough to watch, right? But what I like about the show here
Especially
is
today.
that, exactly. Especially with the I can't breathe, thing with what the state, well, the I was gonna say statement, the I can't breathe, like what Eric Garner say, that pretty much became part of this Black Lives Matter, thing that's going on here right now. So the show itself, like I say, touches on these three guys, David, Ramsey, and Kevin. It's not so much about Jacob, even though he's a guy who started Wake Up Watch, but I like the fact that he's just a guy who kind of opens the film. That he just kind of starts it off, but it's really about these three guys, and well, it doesn't zero in so much on what inspired them to to pick up their phone and hit record. It was just kind of instinct. Like they came from environments where they know this thing is coming, and well, yeah, these three guys knew the victims, right? So it was just instinct. Let's just pull out the phone and see what's going on here, right? And I like the fact that they didn't stop there. It wasn't like, oh, well, we filmed this, that's it, I'm going to move on with my life. They somehow met each other, they formed this group, and essentially what it is, it's not just, well, at first you assume it's just about them following the cops around every time they're arresting someone, they're just going to film, film them.
Right.
It's not like that, even though it gives the impression of that at first. Oh, and by the way, as far as like filming new stuff, they actually started off kind of old school though. Like they ended up getting like these old, okay, well, all by our standards, DV cams.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like
wow.
if you remember DV cams, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
I
didn't
still
have
have
one,
one
but I
somewhere.
do. Oh, you do? Okay. By chance, Tracy, you used to use that in any of your like videos or anything like that?
When I used to just randomly grab in the office and do random short films, very horrible, horrible short films. But I used to use the DV cam. It was a Sony, I think it was a Sony Handycam or something like that. It's floating around in a box somewhere.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so this is where they started from. Well, I should say this is where We Cup what started from, because at
Right.
first it was Jacob and David, right? So they met and then they started this group. They actually had this GoFundMe campaign going on to raise money to actually fund what they're doing. Well, actually to buy the cameras that they will use later on. I thought that was like really cool. No? And then later on they would meet with Ramsey and Kevin, right? And what I love about the show here is that, at first you think it's just about these guys, and what their sole purpose basically is just to keep an eye on the police. So instantly I was thinking with this one phrase, one sentence, sorry, one question actually. Well, if you're Watchmen fans like I am, you know what I'm talking about. Who watches the Watchmen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty much that, right? It's pretty much,
Right.
oh, we don't really trust, like we know you have to protect and serve, but ever so often you'll drop the ball, so we want to be there. If even if it's just you arresting somebody or you just there, we're gonna just record you and we're gonna make sure to ask what your name is,
Right.
what your number is, and all that kind of stuff. And of course
Yeah.
the police is just like, no, we're not gonna tell you nothing, but it's just like, well, no, we need to know. It's our constitutional right to film and to be aware of these things, right? So I
Right.
dug that. But what I really love about the show here is it's not just about these guys watching cops. It's about what they had to deal with after their friends passed away, right? Case in point, Ramsey Orta, right? Who after filming that video, the police practically came on him for possession of drugs or selling drugs actually, and gun possession actually. So it was just all these
Wow.
cases that they were throwing on him too, and it's just like, yo, but I just filmed this thing Joe, that the world need to know about, and now they're digging up all this kind of stuff, and you're thinking it's like the police trying to frame him and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of not. But at the same time, it really does feel like some kind of big rebuttal now, you know what I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
what went
Mm-hmm.
down. You know what I mean? It's
Oh yeah.
it's hard to ignore that. And it's just the same thing with pretty much everybody. Well, not so much with David actually, because he's just trying to build Copwatch with Jacob, right? But with Ramsey and Kevin, you see how that situation affect their lives. Them being brought into court, certain cops who were accused of the crime being let go, and all that kind of stuff. You really see how it just affected their lives. Also, all three guys are family men as well, so you see just how their lives are. You know what I mean? So the show, in a nutshell, it's a cinema verite kind of show, right? You have your talking heads ever so often, but it's just mostly a camera just following these guys about just on their rounds doing what it is they're doing, right? They have moments where they have memorials for the deceased men. I thought those were great moments as well. There's even a great moment actually where on one of the memorials where they're talking about in honor of Ergana, two cops show up, right? A black and white cop, right? And they're actually talking to the black cop like normal, man. He's aware of, well, he appreciates what the guys are doing. And, he has it bad too because, now he has, well, it's almost like the cops are being zeroed in for these kind of cases, but at the same time, they still have a job to do, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I like that just little self-aware moment that, not all cops are bad, basically, right? And the show itself does not see that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, people need to know about this. People need to know what to do if they ever encountered by a cop or whatnot, right? They should
Right.
know how to handle themselves and not react in a way that will propel them, so to speak, to act violently, right? So it's those little things. And yeah, that's pretty much what the documentary is about. It's just really shining a light on these three guys. Especially with Ramsey though, but his story is really, really, really not tragic and stuff, but it's just one unfortunate thing after the next. So, and it's just a shame because of who he is and where he's from. But at that one moment, his friend was in trouble and he did what he did. So you'd think that life would have been fair to him, but you know, it's just how the cards were dealt in his favor. But that's all I'll say. But yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure how anybody else could see this because this was just a one-time screening that they had on the We Are One YouTube channel. So I was just lucky to just check that out before coming, before meeting up here.
It's Netflix. I say it'll probably pop up on Netflix because most of these shows on it I see is that sort of stuff that come on before anyway.
Okay. And you're right. Because yeah, I mean, more people should check this out. Actually, more people should see it, I should say. And even though it is about 2-3 years old, it still resonates too. And last thing I just want to say though before get to Mariton is that it kind of brings up the point, or at least asks the question, um, if you were in their shoes, right, and you like right next door to where you live and whatnot, you saw the police do manhandle a person, right? And they're moving that way towards them. They're close to death. They're screaming, "I can't breathe," or they're in pain and whatnot. What would you do? Would you just run inside and just peek through your windows, or will you be brave enough to just pull out your phone or your camera and just film that kind of stuff? So the show kind of subtly asks that question. It doesn't stop to be like, "Oh, well, this is what you must do," but yeah, it's really something you should think about. Like, what would you do?
Yeah,
And
that standard effect kind of hard to get around. Yeah?
sorry.
The bystander effect, it's kind of hard to get around. You're thinking you go do the brave
Really
thing, but most
is.
don't.
Yeah. That's the
Fight or
thing.
flight.
Exactly. Yeah. Fight or flight, indeed. Yeah. So you really have to applaud these three guys for just acting. You know what I mean? And not even second guessing, just doing it, and just for people to know, hey, these are what the cops are supposed to be protecting us. These are what they are capable of doing. And last thing I just want to say before I get to read it now, but the way how the show is set up is almost like, okay, these guys film this stuff. I mean, it's news. They went into interviews and all that kind of stuff, and okay, they're now part of Copwatch. So now I'm wondering if the guy who filmed George Floyd's death, if he'll be a part of Copwatch now. Maybe, I don't know. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is a solid doc. I really appreciate it for what it is. Rating wise, I'll give this a decent 4 to 5, man. This is a absolute
Nice.
must see. I hope that, as Ricardo say, I hope it makes its way to Netflix or some other streaming platform, because yeah, people need to see this. People need to be aware of this. And yeah, this was solid. I highly recommend you check it out.
Cool. I'd
That,
give it like a few weeks maybe before it actually starts coming out to one of the other platforms or something. Because by
Hmm.
right now, messages like that are relevant and you would want to know and want to see. So they will more than likely, if they can, push it out to other platforms soon enough.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they
Like,
should, they should.
like even Netflix this month when they filtered in new content, especially at least on the US platform, they added Spike Lee's Malcolm X, they added The Help, they added Criterion announced that in the US that there was a list of movies with black filmmakers about black issues that they announced that they took the paywall down off of. So no,
Right.
I think that a lot of streaming services are going. Yeah, I expect this to get. I think it sounds like it'll get picked up pretty quickly because I think that a lot of different services are, advocating for this kind of content at the moment. At least to some of them, it's probably out of the goodness of their heart. Other ones, it's probably a question of kind of riding off the fact that it's a popular issue that everyone's talking about at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump in to do the right thing, right? As I said
Speaking
before, sorry.
speaking of things that are still relevant,
Uh-huh.
all these years later.
yes.
Yes.
Boy.
Yes.
Indeed. And like I said,
Uh,
as I said at the very beginning, I thought, well, it's just it came out way back when, so I mean, it's relevant, but
yeah.
is it really that relevant? And
Oh,
having seen it
yes.
just a few days before
Mm.
recording this, yeah, it still is, man. So my brief
Painfully
history with
relevant.
the movie, Do the Right Thing. Before we just get to your guys' histories with the film, right? So I always heard of the film, but I just never got around to seeing it, right? I never really saw a lot of Spike Lee films. Like I knew they were out theatrically, but I was too young to see them. With the exception of, well, I think the first one I saw was Malcolm X, right?
Yeah.
Which Ricardo and I we will argue is well, okay, like you, Ricardo, you say that is his best film, bar none. I say it's his magnum
Uh,
opus.
yeah. I between this and probably Inside Man, I find is my two favorite of
Yes.
his.
Okay, yeah. Inside Man, I actually saw in theaters. Loved it. I love how even though it was your heist drama, it's still
Yeah.
my touch on race, but in a very smart way and not in
Yeah.
a itself over
The
the
plot
head
is
kind of way.
very the plot for Inside Man is very clever. It actually catch me. When seeing it for the first time, now catch me off guard.
Yeah, and of course the music that I love though from.
Uh, well, the movie kind of addressed one of Spike Lee's bigger critiques of his early filmmaking anti-Semitism. There. So
Yes. Also, one thing I love about Inside Man was the score, boy, which is done by Terrence Blanchard. And I always
yeah,
remember the theme of it, the theme song, well, the main theme of Inside Man showing up at the end of Black Landsman. I was like, wow,
right, yeah,
okay. And it
yeah,
fit, totally fit. You know what I mean? I love that. But yeah, just going back to do the right thing and Spike Lee, right? So actually, the first Spike Lee movie I saw was Malcolm X. I remember it showing on local TV. So
yeah,
yeah, sat down. I think it was in the
TV6.
afternoon. Yeah, TV6. I think it was from 1 to like about 5. Just sat down watching the whole thing, right? And that was my introduction
Yep.
to Spike Lee. And from there, that's when I sought out his other works. So I still haven't seen some of his his joints as he calls his films, right? But I saw the major ones, right? Well, most of them
yeah,
actually. As far as the writing goes, I remember seeing that on BT. They actually had it. Well, of course, they had to censor the language and all that kind of stuff. But I remember seeing it and being truly impacted by it. Like at first, it was just like, okay, this is what the big deal is about. Okay, I get this, right? And
yeah,
then funny thing is that when I went into our version of film school, that would be the UE film program, we were exposed to this film again. So I'll never forget. I forget which class it was, right? Um, it was basically a class where we had a clip of a film and we had to pretty much write an essay based off of a question asked about the scene. And
right,
that actually was, the big confrontation that happens at Sal's Pizzeria
right,
between Radio Raheem and Bugging Out, which you'll get into against Salna. And I think it's from there to where the fight starts and where it goes outside. And
right,
I'll never forget, like we had like these MacBooks, sorry, these Maxner. So
Yeah, yeah,
imagine just hearing a bunch of people clicking the same link. You're just hearing
yeah,
the same commotion, same noise, same noise.
yeah.
Even though everybody had the headphones on, I just knew. I was just hearing people all over the place. I remember another example. I remember another clip being well, a really memorable scene from a movie that he did, Shaul Goddard, called Weekend, right? And this is the infamous traffic jam scene, which is basically this dolly shot of just this long running traffic jam, and it runs for about 5 to about 8 minutes. It is crazy, but yo, it is just amazing at the same time, Jen. I remember it was like one of those two films were running there. So yeah, it was level noise before we even got around to writing stuff like that. But long story short, around that period, when I started to learn more about film, that's where I saw the movie again, and that's when it really hit me. And I really got into the technique and the stuff that he was doing, not just story wise, but visually and musically and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, over the years, the more I watch it, the more I love it. And right now, I actually own the Criterion DVD for it. I'm hoping to upgrade it to Blu-ray, hopefully, one day. But yeah, this is one of my favorite Spike Lee joints ever. Ricardo, your quick history with Duty Writing.
Right. I didn't see it when it came out, obviously, because I would have been like 4.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing it when I was around 12 on more than likely HBO or Cinemax, one of those.
All
It
right.
would have
All
been
right.
played. Yeah, I remember seeing it around there for the first time. Yeah, great film. Really, really works. You make the point about you not having a particular memory of it, or sorry, not being connected to it in Trinidad, but in Trinidad, yeah, we have our occasional police brutality moments.
Yes.
Right,
Yes, we do.
yeah, mostly to do it like just a guy getting out of hand and the police, don't disrespect me kind of bullshit. And well, when I was in A levels, I think I remember hearing a guy getting killed by the police in San Fernando. It's something along the lines of, I think he had like a slight mental health problem. They didn't know how to handle it, and I think one of the officers hit him in the back of the head with a baton, and he died from that.
Jeez, what?
Wow.
Yeah, that was like a real big thing in Sando at the time. Right, so it's stuff like that. You always hear these stories. I've never been part of these stories or didn't see them myself, but you always hear these little occasional things of police abuse in the country.
Mhm.
And yeah, so the film does workably resonate for me, at least in that sense. Just the police just not knowing how to escalate. It don't really matter if the person or the perpetrator um, engaging in bad behavior, because like we'll talk about that. But as I say, you deserve a punishment. You don't deserve death. Sorry,
Agreed.
as it is.
Yeah.
And that the film does address this. And we're going to get to the central point about how, yeah, you have people who are civil servants. They should be trained better and how to handle these things, and yet they don't. Right, for whatever reason, they just can't de-escalate a situation, and people keep justifying and excusing this nonsense. And if the film nails that perfectly, it nails how police handle what was dealing in the inner city in New York in the late 80s,
Mhm.
70s, and that kind of stuff. And still that really, really well. Yeah, so that was just my kind of take on my case on the and my history on the film.
Right. Tracy, what's your history with Duty Writing?
I came into to do the right thing late. I might have been in my early 20s or somewhere around there. For me, it was kind of weird in terms of like Spike Lee was one of those directors who was always floating around in terms of movies that I would watch. So like you, I had that same experience of watching Malcolm X on local television. And I have the DVD for Inside Man, and I think he did Love and Basketball, which I absolutely adore.
Oh,
Uh,
he didn't direct that film
he
actually.
didn't direct it.
He
Yeah,
may have been involved with it though.
So
I'm not too sure, but
right.
yeah.
So in that, like, it's not a lot of Spike Lee um, pieces that I've actively taken in. However, when I did sit down and watch Do the Right Thing, this was like long after, like I said, I'm in my 20s at the time, and so Rodney King would have happened, and
yeah.
all that sort of thing. So for me, seeing how this played out and the memory of what I would see on TTT or TV6 when they would go to Los Angeles and show the riots and show the actual Rodney King beating and the police officers involved and all that kind of stuff. It really made me angry. And I thought I was, fine and calm and everything. It's only recently for this review, I went back to watch Do the Right Thing again, and I
Right.
realized I still have some of that, like this shouldn't, like this is still resonant, and it should not be, for want of a better way of putting it. Like I feel like it shouldn't be a thing. Like I feel like in 2020 we should have moved forward. We shouldn't have to be like, oh my God, this shit is still happening kind of vibes.
Right.
We'll go into detail, but for me, Do the Right Thing kind of works on like about 6 different levels, and I really enjoyed it. I really love it. I
Right.
myself
Right.
at some point in time will get the DVD.
Yeah. All right. So last but not least, Claude, your history with Do the Right Thing.
So it took Spike Lee's one of those filmmakers that I got into a little later. I think the first film of his I watched was Black Klansman,
Mhm.
actually, and
Which made it to your best of the decade. I never forgot that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, masterpiece.
No, it's
Um,
great. It's great though. I just
oh,
really, I just personally need to rewatch it though. I wanted to for this review, but time now. So yeah, continue.
Oh yeah, but like so that was his first, and that was the one because like I had known about him in kind of an abstract sense, but never gotten around checking out his work. Black Klansman came out, and I saw that and loved it to bits, and that got me to watch more of his stuff. The second of which was Do the Right Thing,
Right.
and then after that, Jungle Fever. Still watching more of his work, especially since Netflix and a bunch of other platforms have made more of his stuff available of late. The Five Bloods comes out in a few days now, and I am hyped. Oh my God!
It better be good. It's like a 2.5, roughly a couple hours and a half long. It had to be worth it. That's all I say.
Yeah, like I love Vietnam War films. I
Same here.
love Spike Lee. Spike Lee doing a Vietnam War film. I'm there. I was hyped when he was posting pictures of that on his Instagram. But I love Do the Right Thing. I have the Criterion DVD. Got to get it out of its plastic to watch it for to refresh myself with it for this review. Still doing more of his stuff. I think because I know that the Son of Sam movie he did is on Hoopla. The Inside Man and Malcolm X are currently on Netflix. So I'm planning to check out more of his stuff, especially in the coming months, since it's all available at the moment, and I'm getting more into him.
I just hope the Five Bloods is not Miracle in Santa Ana all over again.
I heard things about it. I heard it wasn't good at all.
It was an okay movie if you don't know the history. That's the problem with it.
Oh dear.
Okay.
It was
because I know he does do his misfires. Like he had that remake of Old Boy that I've heard nothing but bad things.
Why do?
I
don't know. I just always felt like he did it for a paycheck. That was my take on why you make Old Boy to begin with.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was so flat, and it totally missed the point of why the original work. Like it was a total missed opportunity. That's all I'll say about that. And then he had stuff like the Sweet Blood of Jesus, which I felt kind of worked, but it just fell flat as well. Just kind of lower.
Yeah.
I like Chirac, but I know a lot of people don't like Chirac. So
I dug Chirac there. I thought that was like a return to form.
I have to watch that.
Yeah, to me that was a return to form. It was like this.
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah. I thought it was a return to form as well.
Yeah, the confrontational, provocative Spike Lee, not the let's do a remake of a old blaxploitation horror film and call it The Sweet Blood of Jesus. It was like that. You know what I mean? But that's last thing I just want to mention too. I mean, we've mentioned some of his great hits, but he also had some decent films. Well, you call out Jungle Fever. That's one that still resonates with me, especially with its touch on colorism, shadism, and then also interracial relationships. And I just love the fact that he asks these questions, but there's no answer. You know what I mean? And just these Stevie Wonder soundtrack bit, brilliant. I love
flames, absolute flames.
Mo Better Blues. Great film, you know what I mean? Not one of my all-time favorites, but as far as bringing jazz to bringing jazz to the 90s at work, Crooklyn was a nice coming-of-age film. I really dug that. Cluckers was pretty good as well. I haven't rewatched
Right.
that in quite a while. Get on the Bus, that's one of his underrated films in my opinion. Same thing for He Got Game. Really dug 25th Hour, one of the best performances from Edward Norton, bar none.
Right.
And yeah, just I mean the man has been putting out work. Right? I mean, yeah, he have a couple of misses, but he been putting out some solid work, man.
I think the big one I'm curious about as well is the one he did about because he did that one about the Son of Sam murders as well. It's
Right,
one of his more underrated ones. I haven't seen
Sam, which I saw, and I remember there was some big controversy about. Oh well, I think it's about how Italian Americans were portrayed in this because it was mostly Italian Americans in this. And you know it was stereotypical or something like that. I think that was the issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And he take a lot of heat. He take a lot of heat for Mo Better Blues as well for the portrayal of of Jewish caricatures, because John Turturro.
John Turturro shows up in that. Yes.
Not a Jew. John Turturro is not Jewish, and it's like when you look at it, it's like it's a little sketchy. I don't think me with Inside Man in my opinion. A little. Go ahead.
All right. So without wasting any time, let's jump into Do Your Right Thing, right? Which is the third feature film from Spike Lee. This was right after another underrated gem of his called Schoolies. I remember seeing that. I think it was on BT, but I really want to see like the full uncut version. But it was like this nice mix of college drama, but you had your musical. It was a musical comedy drama basically, right? But it's just set in this high school. I remember Tisha Campbell was in it. Lawrence Fishburne was in it. He had the whole "wake up" thing in the end, which kind of shows back up here. But I'll get to that in a bit, right? It's written, produced, directed by Spike Lee. Cinematography was done by Dennis Dickerson, and it was pretty much inspired by the Howard Beach event, right? So the Howard Beach event pretty much was centered on a guy called Michael Griffith, who actually was from Trinidad, right? He was an immigrant. He moved to the States in 73 actually. And he was killed after being hit by a car as he was chased onto a highway by a mob of white youths who had beaten him and his friends. Yeah. Him and his two other guys, Willie Turks and Yusuf Hawkins, they died at the hands of these white kids, right? And that pretty much, and it happened near a pizzeria actually. So that pretty much inspired the events of Do the Right Thing, right?
Right.
Wow.
So and the funny thing about that, I'll touch on it later on, is how the show brings up the name Howard Beach, or brings up the term Howard Beach, and it's something that happened in real life, right? Spike Lee wouldn't just throw it in the film just like that. But when you actually find out what it is about, it's like, oh, okay, that's why it's such a big deal. That's why Spike had to make a movie like this, right? So so first off, we get the iconic intro, of course, set to Public Enemy's Fight the Power, voted by VH1 as the greatest rap song of all time. I totally agree. I love that song. I love the album it's from too, Fear of a Black Planet. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you haven't listened to it, give it a look. But that song still knocks as they do. The energy that went into it, Chuck D's powerful vocals, you know what I mean? Flavor Flav doing his thing, you know what I mean? I dug that, right? But what I love about the intro here is, Rosie Perez, right? Her dancing and, what they said there.
A very proto J-Lo fly girl Rosie Perez, right?
Yes. It's a good thing you bring up that too, because she would handle choreography for the Fly Girls in Living Color, right? The following year. Yeah. It's like, okay, this is like where it all started from. Okay. And what I like though is that actually Spike says it in the Spike and Ernest says it because they were on the commentary track on the for Do the Right Thing Criterion DVD, right? They were trying to emulate old school musicals, right? So, the whole sound stage, them it's not, in this case, it's another character tap dancing or doing some kind of number, but it's Rosie Perez pretty much dancing to the music, right? And I love how basically the background switches basically like brownstones or buildings with graffiti on it, just Brooklyn stuff, like stuff that represent Brooklyn, right? And it was just basically like these slides they just had for these moments. So it wasn't like they tried to do rear screen projection, but it didn't really work. So you just kind of projected like these slides. Now. So that's how it looked. Also, another thing I dug was the use of light in the scene here, because the scene like warm colors, there's a lot of browns and
Sharp red,
sharp reds and all that kind of stuff. So perfect way to open the film. And of course, it's right after school days. So it's like Spike's still doing the musical stuff. So I really dug that.
Quick correction for me. Is the person the same costume? The dad costume person as Ruth Carter is the same Ruth Carter from Black Panther?
Yes, you're right.
Woo!
Oscar winner Ruth Carter.
Want that long
Black
overdue Oscar. That long overdue Oscar.
I know, right? But I mean, this show has a lot of big names in this though. I mean, names who have gone on to star and work on other great films. So when I saw costumes by Ruth Carter, I was like, well, what do? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I punched the air. I completely punched the air, and I was like, hell yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Carter, let's go.
Right. And just one last thing I just want to mention about the song Fight the Power itself, right? So Spike pretty much had Public Enemy redo the song for it.
Oh really?
Yeah. So this what we hear in the film is actually the second draft.
Okay.
Because the first draft Spike here is like, nope, no, do it over again. And he brought up a real good point. Okay, he had this song pretty much like 20 plus times in the show, so the song had a knock, right? So they went back, and what we got here was the song that we know and love, right? I was like, wow, wait, that's when you know you have clout. That's when you know you have clout, huh?
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Spike Lee makes artistic suggestions. You absolutely listen. Like you sit up and listen.
Yeah.
Rosie Perez, in an article, an Entertainment Weekly article, had said that dance sequence, that opening sequence, it was 8 hours, quote, 8 hours of doing the same dance. She says she developed tennis elbow from throwing those punches.
Wow.
Because Spike would come back. Yeah.
Huh.
So she jokingly says, she still hates Spike for doing it, but they laugh about it. The idea of 8 hours of doing the same dance.
Right.
So it's
that is
That's
some Stanley
brilliant.
Kubrick shit though. Like, good.
Absolutely intense. I think what I love about the intro as well is that, because obviously, especially intro opening credits, you gotta set the tone. And given how much of an in-your-face movie Do the Right Thing is, it sets the tone so well, because literally the visuals and the music just kind of explode onto the screen, and then we're off. And it sets that tone so well.
It does. Speaking of Stanley Kubrick, following shot has a very Kubrick-esque style to it, with the slow zoom out, right? And we open with young Samuel Jackson, right, who plays Mr. Senior Love Daddy, right? Woo. And just drawing the same team from school days that wake up.
Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake!
And I just love how it just starts off on his lips. You see the microphone and you see the clock near to him, and it just kind of slowly zooms out. I just see he works at this small little this small little radio station / studio on the block itself. I thought that was really cool. Like I just always love the idea of this guy just working right on the street right there. So he's seeing everything, and he's just pretty much delivering the soundtrack to their lives. I thought that was really, really dope, right? Mm-hmm. He's the host. Sorry, he's I guess the only JJ actually for We Love Radio 108 FM. The last on your dial, first in your heart. I love that. I always like what he says, and that's the truth. Roots. Just love that, right? I love just in terms of late 80s black representation and empowerment, where you see inside of a studio, seeing posters of Public Enemy, Keith Sweat, with Houston, all that kind of stuff, right? And you get the setup because he's saying, today's forecast hot, right? So pretty much it's a Saturday, right? Well, one of the hottest days of the year. I always had it in mind that it was like the first day of summer, but it actually isn't. But I don't know, I just
No.
always had it in my mind like, oh well, this is the setup. Like this is
Right.
where everything kind of begins on the first day of summer. But whatever, right?
Right.
I just love cinematography wise how just the how it highlights all the stresses and how hot the place is, right? The colors that he used for the bronzes, all that were exaggerated, was slightly exaggerated. So it's very bright browns and oranges and reds and all that kind of stuff, just to give the impression that yeah, the place is really hot, right? Um, Another character that who's introduced here is the character of Smiley, right? Who
Right.
I'll never forget the first time I saw the movie, I was like, I don't really know if I dig in this guy, if I dig in this character, because this guy who's played by Roger Guinevere Smith, maybe he showed up in some other films, but I can't remember right now. I just always remember with Smiley. He stutters, right? And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
always walking around with these pictures. Well, one picture in particular of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? Just together
Right.
shaking hands. And he has this marker, and he's there talking about this is Malcolm X, and this is Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
They fought for our rights, and we need to
Right.
fight against apartheid. Because yes, it's the late 80s, guys. So yeah, apartheid was still a thing,
This is
right?
the topic of the this is the
Right.
topic of the time.
I think he has that
Exactly.
line where he says that Martin and Malcolm are dead, but we have to still fight.
Yes.
We still have
yes,
to
yes.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was such a great moment, but like I said, first I was like, the stuttering thing, though. I don't know. But over the years, I get, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think that the actor played him like that. I'm not sure if he was written to be like that, but he
Right.
kind of did the stuttering thing, and it's like okay, like Spike was like, oh, that'll be cool if you just play a character like that, right? Just don't quote my name. I believe that's how it went, right? A dog, Mookie, who's played by Spike Lee. I know, we could kind of argue for these as to, what I mean, did you need to be in your own film? You know what I mean, all that kind of stuff. But
Listen,
I don't
right
know.
up to
There
that.
wasn't.
Auteur
man-
cinema,
I'm
baby.
fine with it. I'm fine with it. I think that
The man get to be Rosie Perez baby daddy, right? So that
Yeah.
clearly he, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, the man
Listen,
was still growing as a filmmaker, Jed. So I mean, why not, right? Why not be in your film? He was on, he was in School Days, I believe he was there. He was in Jungle Fever, I remember that for sure.
Yeah, but I
Mhm.
typical shit.
Why
And
not?
they call him Charles Foster Kane, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Him doing his Orson Welles shit, right? Oh yes, and he was
Yeah.
also in More Better Blues. He was also in Malcolm X. He was actually Malcolm X's friend when he was Red, back
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. But yeah,
Does
I
he
mean,
does he ever act in other people's movies,
um,
or is it only his own?
that's a really good question.
That's
I feel
I
like he
don't.
probably
I
did
got it.
appear in
I
a.
think I'm chatter because I have no good memory of that. To tell you the truth.
All right, well, I'm looking right now, and huh, mostly the films that he directed. He started.
Right.
Fair.
Yeah. He probably he made a couple appearances on TV shows. One in particular being She's Gotta Have It, which is still on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. Which actually was a really solid TV show though. Well, there's a TV version of his debut feature, right?
Right.
Which
Right.
was cancelled after the second season, but I don't know.
That's
I
Netflix
still
for
got
you.
it for what it was. Yeah, that's Netflix, right? But yeah, I love Mookie's intro where basically he's on his bed just counting money. He's like 20, 40, 60, 80. I love the lighting for this though, the kind of orange red, um, you know, uh, window
And the
curtains that
camera.
he has. Sorry, not window curtains, the windows that he has actually, the tint on them. I thought that was really cool. But I just love, just from a character intro, he's on his bed counting money, and that pretty much is his character. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just gotta get paid. You know what I mean? That's pretty much his MO
that's the
throughout the
whole.
entire show.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I actually I kind of agree with him, but I'll tell you where I agree with him, right? But moving on, right? So of course, Spike Lee being a big MJ fan, he had to have the 23 vests on. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, but it's
yeah,
not but is a New York jersey.
right,
That
exactly.
makes
Yeah.
it-
Right. But yeah, you know what I mean? We could argue about his acting in his show, but I think for what the story required of him, yeah, he was solid. He was solid, right?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Also, we see Spike's sister, Joy Lee, right, who plays
Yeah.
Jade. She also shows up. She also showed up in a few other Spike Lee joints. I remember she was in Crooklyn. I think she was in Malcolm X. I'm not too sure, but I know she was in Jungle Fever and Crooklyn. I know that for sure. And she also was in She's Gotta Have It. She was Nola Darling's mom, actually. I remember that.
Well, the
Yeah,
first
and
time I saw, sorry, the first time I saw it, I actually thought she was like the girlfriend or something along those lines, and then
Thank you.
yes,
Yeah.
I
yes,
was like,
yes.
okay,
Watching it
Ellen-
again, I was like, when you look at it, right, and the first shot of her is her sleeping, and then he comes up right next to her by her cheek and playing with her ear and tell her to wake up, all that kind of stuff. It's easy to think, easy could like if you didn't know that she was Spike's own sister, like you would have swear that was his girlfriend or not.
Yeah,
But
but
Right.
you'll see who his girlfriend is later on in the story. But I thought that was kind of interesting introducing them like that, right? But
Yeah.
basically they live in the same brownstone together. They don't see it actually in the film, but there's a great behind the scene of the making of the show on the Criterion DVD, where she mentions that where she works at a store or something like that. But they don't ever bring up where she works. It's just
right.
Mookie, and well, what you're gonna get into right now, he works at Sal's Pizzeria, right? Which is like the sole, big pizza joint over at Bedford Stuyvesant, right? That road basically, right? And then from there we introduced to the character of Sal, played by the late great Danny Aiello, right? I just love the intro, like when he comes on, right, with the Cadillac, and you're hearing the three old black guys, like, woo, look at that Cadillac, man, I wish I had a ride like that, man. What's interesting about that though is like, usually like if you look at at especially like 70s films, black exploitation films.
Mhm.
When it's one perfect example is the Mac, right? Cult classic, right? As soon as the main character being a pimp, right? As soon as he gets the Cadillac, he has these two kids like, you know what I mean? I want to give me a car like that, right? So to have three old black men basically comment on an Italian American's car, you know what I mean, as opposed to a black man. I thought that was pretty interesting. This kind of subtle moment, right? But yeah, anyway, so we see Sal, we see his two sons, Pino, who was played by John Turturro, very young, and also Vito, played by Richard Edson, who was I saw in another film, but I can't remember for the life of me. I don't know. I just
Same.
always associate him with Vito and Do the Right Thing, and just never um um saw him in anything else, right? Anyway, right. So basically, Pino is the older brother to Vito, right? And I just love how they just kind of set up the family dynamic where Sal tells him,
Pino, get a broom and sweep up front.
Vito, get a broom, sweep out front. Huh? Get a broom and sweep out front.
What?
Get a broom and sweep out front!
See, Pop, it's just what I was telling you. Every time you tell Pino what to do, he tells me to do what you told him what to do.
It's a brilliant way of establishing their dynamic, and also the fact
Yes.
that Vito has no chill whatsoever.
Yes,
None.
yes. And one thing I love about this show is how tight knit everything is. So
Right.
while you seeing Vito on the Cadillac, right across the street, you seeing the Korean joint, right? The fruit and veg shop that
Yes.
he owns, right? And
Yeah.
while you seeing the owner, the Korean guy outside, you also seen Smiley buttering him. I think he's either buttering him or his wife or something like that. So you just see how close everything is. Like it's literally you just turn your back and you're seeing a character or you're seeing a place.
Yeah,
Right?
but everything is basically one block, right? Or two blocks, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, essentially one block. Well, yeah. I really, really dug that. And one thing that, in terms of character development, Pino comes in and says, he hates the plates. He detests it like a sickness. I always love how Sal comes like,
You detest this place like a sickness? I mean, that's like really hate. That's hate.
and Sal ends the scene by, he says it as a joke, right? But just in terms of editing, I'm gonna kill somebody today. Boom, cut to the next scene.
I was
love
thinking.
that.
I was It's brilliant. I was thinking about this rewatching it. There's something about the way that Spike Lee directs dialogue that reminds me a lot of Martin Scorsese. And it's one of those things you don't notice right away until they're both dealing with Italian Americans. And
well, Spike is
there
huge,
it is.
He's huge, inspired by Scorsese. Yeah? Like,
oh yeah,
you could tell Scorsese is one of his heroes, especially with
definitely.
the New York worship, like showing New York for what it is, and that's
the city becomes a character in and of itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that block, like by the time the movie's over, you know that block, you know everyone on it, and like you were saying, that it's this tight knit community and everything's interwoven, everyone knows each other, and you get that great sense of that by the time the movie's over, because that block has almost become a character in and of itself because of the way that Lee shoots it and all the people on it, and everything.
Yeah.
In terms of Sal and the story and everything, did anybody else got that feeling of benefactor? So it's not just, for want of a better way of putting it, he runs the pizza shop, but he has an almost kind of benefactor sensibility towards him. Like, I'm being nice to everybody.
Right.
So it's not like if he's inherently what we would call a bad guy or he's doing everything out of sheer love out of it. But there's a quasi benefactor sensibility about him that I was watching it over again, and I was like, okay, what? That's
so the one thing I noticed with him is he set up his relationship with is implied that he kind of know Ozzie Davis's character, the mayor, a while now.
Yeah,
and he himself more than likely lived through the civil rights era. So to him, he was much more working, at least a lot slightly better relationship with black people than his son. His son have no memory of any of that. So that little dynamic I kind of get and piece together from it. Just watching it over, it's like, oh yeah, right, I have all of this in it. Like, that's how I notice all the pattern. But the Ozzie Davis character is pretty interesting. Like, his history with the neighborhood and all of that going through now.
It is. Well, he is, sorry. Yeah. Well, speaking of, Ozzie Davis, rest in peace. He's one of the other characters who shows up here, right? Another character who shows up, well, just so happens to be his wife, right? Also, rest in peace, Ruby Dee, right? Who plays Mother's sister. And I just love the dynamic between the two of them, right? I love the nuances, given to the characters. And the idea is like, they are like this old married couple, even though they're not married, but they will argue and bicker with each other. But you can tell that there's a romantic tension going on between the two.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
And she make a little line about he reminds me of her ex-husband.
yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just love the character of the mayor, do you? I mean, yes, he is the neighborhood drunk, right? But I love the moment where he's talking to. Yeah. I love how he kind of curtsies and tips his hat and stuff like that. And how nice he talks to mother sister though. And I love a moment where she berates him and it's like, be careful there. We don't have much time left. Just paraphrasing here. But I just love those back and forth moments. And another thing, this little technique that he uses, Dutch angles though, when it comes to two characters. I would presumably from mother sister's perspective, because she sees him as a threat, like, who's this guy, this drunk guy trying to hit on me, that kind of stuff. So that was noticeable.
No, I was thinking about that. Like, it was one of the two movies I watched last week where I was like, man, this was made before Battlefield Earth, huh? This was made before the Dutch angle kind of fell out of style for a bit.
Right. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
The Dutch angling in Battlefield Earth, boy, my God.
Jesus Christ. That's an endurance test, not a movie.
Yeah, boy. Right. So
remind me to bring that up when we talk about Batman Forever.
Will do. Will do. Because Schumacher do he fair share of Dutch angles too, because he joined from the old Batman series, right? But anyway, so get back to the mayor, right? So as it brought up, Ricardo, the relationship between him and Sal, right? So when he comes in, it's like, I'll sweep the front for you, because clearly V2 and don't want to do it. I know he's like, you're gonna have the cleanest spot in Brooklyn, all that kind of stuff. I love that moment, right?
Right.
And then Pino comes in and is like,
Pop, I don't believe this shit. You running welfare or something? Every day you give this Azu Pep $1.
What's Azu Pep? What is Azu Pep
Are you
shit? The
Italian?
man, the
You
man
know
ain't
what
no
Azu Pep?
the man ain't no Azu Pep.
Every day you give this Azu Pep $1 for sweeping our sidewalk. What do we pay Mookie for? You don't even work. I work harder than him and I'm your own son.
also, because, this show is just all about characters and, well, actors playing them. We see a young Martin Lawrence, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
A very
yes,
young
yes.
Martin Lawrence.
Ears was still big, and yeah, for some reason he have a lisp, which is
I
funny.
listen to this.
But
Seeing
it's
Martin
and it's-
Lawrence.
And then my brain for a hot minute take a hot minute to pick up that Giancarlo Esposito is in this movie. I forget clearly was in this.
Yo!
Oh, yeah, I never forgot that. But yeah,
I was like, oh,
one of his early rules actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get to it, right? So yeah, Martin and his three friends. Well, I remember. Well, Ahmad, played by Steve White. Ahmad
Yeah.
will show up later, and they're just basically the teens, right? They're just kind of knocking about, just finding shit. Well, not really having anything to do, but they're just about, right? I just love that aspect of the film, that characters just kind of show up, just kind of come in and out of the story. Basically, they don't really have a big role to play, but they're just there because they're characters in this world, right?
It's very slice of life that way.
Yes.
It's very, like, someone asked me to describe the plot of this movie at one point, and I was like, it's really just kind of a slice of life movie, a day on
in
this
the life.
particular block, culminating in this big
yeah,
event.
they escalate, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to Esposito in a bit, right? So while you see the 4 teens talk and stuff like that, we introduced to, well, the central character of the movie, Ridu Rahim, played by Bill Nunn, rest in peace. And essentially what he is, he's just an uneducated young black man who pretty much walks around all day with his boombox playing Fight the Power. And that is like one of my pet peeves, my musical pet peeves though. Hearing his song over and over,
Right.
like a whole day straight. You're like, I can't do that. That shit just annoys me, right? And I love like when he comes in, like when he shows up, he just stand up and he just holding the boombox. Everybody just watch him like,
You the man, I'm just visiting. What's your world, G?
For real, in a big motherfucking way.
Cho, that boy's living very large. Even walks in stereo. Yo, PE's in full effect, boy.
Radio Raheem like a motherfucker.
and it's just like, yo, we have to show this man respect because the guy's big, right? The man's tough already, so you don't want to get in his way, right? I dug that. So the show touches a lot on, well, racism and stuff like that, right? So a moment I actually forgot happens, and yeah, it really did impact me actually, is where the mayor goes to the Korean shop, right? He's looking for Miller High Life,
Oh, Lord.
and he just goes in on these guys that are like, oh, look, doctor, this ain't Korea or China or whatever. You get some Miller High Life at this fucking joint, right? And it's like, jeez, boy. But when you think about it,
Hold
like,
it down.
it's so easy for us, to look at Asians like, you're so funny because look at how you talk and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, though, that moment actually resonated with me because of, it's easy to pick on them, but I mean, it's kind of like the same thing that we fighting against when it comes to whites, whites talking down to blacks, all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah,
It sort of reminded me even sorry. It sort of
go on. Yeah.
It sort of reminded me even like in today's world where, like, we have a lot of Venezuelans who come in and they may not have their own business, but they're in stores and that kind of stuff. And the same way how the mayor was like, listen, this is not, Korea or China. It's the same way how we tend to act, when they can't say a word or they can't speak properly or anything like that. And it hit home.
Yeah.
The thing is, this movie was about 3 or 4 years before the LA riots, and a big part.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah,
big
part of
with the girl, I believe, who got shot in the Korean store, right? By the owner.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not that. Yeah, exactly. Just the dynamic was always there, and just the whole. There's a big thing with that, and we could get into that debate about, well, yes, the Korean store, the only business, or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, the guy was making the point. Is a building that was closed down for a long time, and they decided to sell it just to these people. There's a whole dynamic about who own what business, and that whole divide and conquer paradigm that's end up happening in terms of who get what and what not. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Well, good point, right? So just for a true characters still, right?
I think I was watching a vid about perfect summer movies, and I honestly I thought the list left out Do the Right Thing, because it really is almost like a quintessential summer movie, not a feel good summer movie, but a summer movie.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so get back to characters, right? So we're then introduced to Rosie Perez, because yes, she's in the movie too, right? She plays Tina, who is the baby mama to Mookie, right? We learn this a little bit later on, right? But she's there, right?
This is the most fancy part of the movie, by the way.
Yeah, and she's still living with her mom and all that kind of stuff, and you know, it's just seeing this moment, just showing the character that she is, right? Her having a child, still depending on her mother to kind of help her out and all that kind of stuff. And it's, you know, just Rosie Perez and what we know, well, early Perez, right? You know, the thick Latina accent and when she argues. You know, I remember seeing that in this movie, White Men Can't Jump, right? With Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. You know, that head turning, you know, loudmouth Latina, and she's like,
"Father ain't no real father. He's a bum. Chump change to the curb, pulling no major pub, bum."
And just like cussing him out and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yes, this is brilliant, Jen. Brilliant without even seeing Mookie with her as yet, right? Then we see the three old guys that I mentioned before, right? One of whom is the late great Robin Harris, you know, the comedian. He showed up in House Party, and then he died before the second House Party came out. I remember that. And I don't know, I just love the dynamic between the three of them. Like, to me, this is like what I was thinking for a while, King of the Hill.
Yeah.
Just the four guys out drinking beers. Yeah, just hanging out, just talking shit, right? I just dug that. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe a majority of their dialogue was improvised.
Okay.
I have a feeling it was improvised. Because they're just like cracking random jokes, but it doesn't really add to the story. Well, not as yet, but it just feels natural. So I would be surprised if it was just all improv. I could be wrong, but whatever. And then we introduced the Bugging Out, right? Played by, you know, Giancarlo Esposito. And, you know, perfect casting, right? Because, yeah, he is a black Italian American.
Right.
Think about it. And in the so in the behind the scenes now, he was saying about how he was born in Italy, and when when his family moved to the States now, the blacks didn't want to be with him, the Italians didn't want to be with him, so he ended up being friends mostly with Jews. Dread. I'm like, jeez, man, that's how deep that went. But wow. So yeah, he more than anybody else, he could relate to what Spike was talking about in this show, Dread.
Yeah.
And I just love the dialogue between him and Sal, Dread, where just right off the bat when he pays for the pizza slice, and he's like, "How much?" And Sal's like, "Dude, you always come in here, Jay, always ask me how much. Were you a retard?"
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that whole Bugging Out is like at 11 perpetually as a character.
Yeah.
And it's always like this movie is basically a series of very intense characters clashing with each other on a day when it's hot and everyone is irritable.
Yeah.
Everybody's
and just to go back to Giancarlo, right? In the interview, he was saying about how he kind of played him as a guy who, not so much a militant, but just a guy who knew that he had to fight for equal rights between black Italians. You know what I mean? He always stood for black empowerment. But it's just that his direction was just off. Like he was just misdirected. So he means well, but it's just how he goes about it is just wrong. Well,
it's great characterization, because there's a nice little scene with him and Moogie's sister.
Yes.
And she kind of make the point about that. It's like, yeah, look, you have your heart in the right place, but come on, you had to have a little bit of better focus on this one. What to do about? Right. You can tell that it just the consciousness just right floating above the surface, but not coming up just yet. No. But I like that about his character.
Me too.
So
me too. Yeah, but it's just because because he kind of off course there, he just comes off
Yeah.
like he's bugging out, like he's crazy,
Yeah.
right? Even though he's
Yeah.
really
Cannot
not
do
there, you
this.
know what I mean? Yeah. But that part where I mentioned where, where he's complaining about, this, put some extra cheese, man. I just love in terms of Freeman. You see Vito on the extreme left of the frame. He just there like
Yeah.
watching him, like, oh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Leering
Like he
on.
doesn't want any
Right.
trouble, but at the same time he's like, okay,
Yeah.
I should be a little careful with this guy. So, points to Spike for that, right? And then we get one of the key moments in the movie. So this is where Buggin sits down, and then, well, we could kind of argue, now you notice this after all this time coming to buy pizza.
Yeah.
But he sits down actually, and then he notices these portraits of Italian American figures, right? So of course, Spike Lee being Spike Lee, you see Al Pacino, you see Robert De Niro, you see Frank Sinatra, of course.
Sinatra.
And right above you see a sign, Wall of Fame. So Buggin is like, yo, why ain't no brothers on the wall, right? And here's the thing, this is what I love about the show too. I love a lot of things about the show, but this is what I love though, just as a character. People make points, right? And yes, they are solid points, they make sense. But it's how far they carry that could kind of make you be like, okay, you was right, but no, don't really believe it here. And this is where he says,
You want brothers on the wall? Get your own place. You can do what you want to do. You can put your brothers and uncles and nieces and nephews, your stepfather, stepmother, whoever you want. See? But this is my pizzeria. American Italians on the wall only.
harsh, yes. Makes sense, yes, but you could see where that point could go in the wrong way there, you know what I mean? And that's what I really love about the show. But yeah, go on, Ricardo.
Right, so that's what make bugging out work, because again, it's one of these small things. Again, this guy shop, he can do what you want kind of thing. He bring up an issue. I would argue it's just part of the general irritability and just, you know how to, as I say, you pick the wrong battles, and he does decide to like just make a big deal out of this thing that is actually quite minor and doesn't matter. But it's just the sheer irritability and the belligerence of the character though. But it fit. It totally fit the situation. We say the same goes for, well, we'll get into that or how it relevant later though.
Yeah. And I love how Buggin comes with a good counterpoint. He's like,
Yeah, that might be fine, Sal, but you own this. Rarely do I see any American Italians eating in here. All I see is black folks. So since we spend much money here, we do have some say.
and then we get, well, the first bit of tension, right? So Sal gets angry, he grabs his baseball bat and he's like threatening to beat Buggin, right? And Vito comes in silent and just takes the bat away from him. Sorry, no, my bad. Pino grabs the bat from him. Like Vito's trying to calm his dad down, but Pino's the one who just comes in, grabs the bat, is like, no. He just shakes his head like, no, right, no. And one thing to take note of also is Smiley outside looking in, but he's unaware of what's going on. And that's something that I didn't even pick up on until like I watched it recently. The idea of windows and characters looking through them. Like they just in the inside looking out, but they're not really doing anything. So Mother Sister, she's like looking at the block, but she's just watching things. And well, Smiley looking from outside, but he has no clue what's going on, right? Because he's just trying to sell his pics. And it's just that whole idea of you're in and people are outside, but you don't know what's going on. And it's unless you step out or go in, that's when you will actually get what's going on. So as far as a team though, as a team, I really dug that, right? But anyway, so just getting back to Buggin, right? So he leaves and he's all about boycott sales, right?
Which is kind of heights for me right now.
Yeah, just pick your battles, as they say.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
completely.
Then Mookie had to come out, was like, yo, like, dog, like, chill out. Like, hey, where you acting so? But I just love the last line where Buggin says before he leaves, like, hey, Mook, stay black. So see, the man, heart in the right place, right? But it's just wrong battles, right?
Pick your battle.
Yeah, so the convo between Mookie and Salah was really interesting. So this is where Mookie pretty much says, well, yeah, Buggin pretty much free to say what he wants, right? But Sal says there's no freedom. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And that just got us, well, another aspect of Sal's character. Like, when he's in here, he's the boss, anything goes, right? Even though he might say something out of context, right? Then we get one of my favorite scenes in the movie. This is where Mookie walks past the mayor. Who's sitting on the stoop. The mayor calls him, is like,
Mookie. Come here, Doc.
Nigga, I gotta go. I'm
Come here,
working.
doctor. Doctor, this is the mayor talking.
All right.
Doctor,
Come on, what?
always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
Just
Yeah.
mainly because Mookie's just that type of person. Like, yo,
I actually
for
forget.
waitress, just leave me alone. Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
what you want to tell me? All right, cool, whatever. I go. That's it.
Yeah, no, I actually noticed. Well, I don't think when they introduced Mookie coming out of his apartment, the first thing he says to the people who comes out, I think it's Jero's witness.
Oh yeah.
Just yell,
No.
yell. Right. But I forget how, I actually forgot how didactic this film is. Like, it just is about this character advice. The movie will just stop dead to have a character tell you his philosophy or whatever it is, and we'll get to that later with Radio Raheem, famous scene. For that. Yeah, go ahead now.
Yeah. So from there we get this nice montage. We get a nice little reggae song from Steel Pulse, represent Steel Pulse. This is where they kind of just emphasize on how hot the day is, right? So filmmaking technique, a dog where you see Rosie Perez dip her head in the ice water, just seeing the camera from that view. I love that shot, right? You see Jade taking a shower, and it's just all these emphasis on heat, and like the song says, can't stand the heat, so it just fits perfectly. And then as I said, Claude, with it being a summer film, it perfectly embodies like what summer is. Like, like it's hot out there, but let me cool down, let me have a little fun. And that leads to one of my favorite moments where they just open up the fires, the hydrant, sorry, and it's just them just having fun. You know what I mean? I love that. I love that moment in the film. Yeah, you were gonna say something, Ricardo?
No, that's the fire hydrant. Yeah, that's like a typical New York thing where you illegally open the hydrant to have fun, and then the firefighters or the police will come and turn it off.
Yeah, which is what happens, right? But before that happens, Rita Raheem shows up. I love where you're seeing Martin. I'm forgetting this character's name, so you call him Martin for now. So Martin and Ahmad like tempted actually to like redirect the water to hit him there. But like, no, let me not do it there, because it's Rita Raheem. And I just love the aspect. One thing I love about Rita Raheem, Jen, is like he just kind of comes off like this lone warrior, Jen. Like he just walking around like fight the power. I have no time for fun. I have no time for games, Jen. It's about this message. I am a loner, and I must walk this path like Keen and Kung Fu. But that's what he is. That's what he is. You think he had time to play with people? No, he won't fight any power, you understand? I love that. But then, as I said, before the police show up to turn off the hydrant, we are forgetting the actor's name, but I swear I saw him before in other shows, right? So this Italian American shows up in this Cadillac, and they're like, yo, let's wet him, right? And he's well, do we even do it? Do we even do it to wet this car? And sure enough, they do it, right? And he gets pissed off. He walks out. And then, right instantly, the police shows up. And, they all like, what to do. And he's like, well, arrest these guys, blah, 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 right? Because, the man's just, like, pissed off now. And this funny little moment, kind of blinking and missing moment, where he talks to one of the cops, and he's like, arrest this guy. What's their names? I don't know. Mo and Joe what? Yeah. Mo and Joe Black.
Yeah.
just so subtle, but you see to have a dug it, right? And I also love what the mayor does, right? Because eventually they point out to him, it's like, ask him, he's a witness, right? And the mayor says, those that will tell don't know, and those that know won't tell. Which very much kind of sums up the character he is, because like you see Ricardo, he probably through the civil rights movement there. It's like, look, I know what will happen if I tell the cops that, this kid did it. I know what will happen. I lived through this, so I ain't even gonna see a single thing. You know what I mean? So I dug that, right? And
there's a kind of drunk Rafiki vibe to him that I got out of the mayor.
Yeah,
Rafiki for real.
A drunk Rafiki.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, but speaking of the two cops now, so we have this kind of shorter one, and then we have the eventual perpetrator, the more Caucasian looking one, and it's when he says, look, better just leave before these people strip down your car, and I'm like, wow, like once again, I get where you're coming from, at the same time, like you hear what this man just said, right? Like, jeez, man, you know what I mean? But it does touch on one of the themes of the movie, which is, look, the point, like this shit could have gone way more serious, but sometimes you just had to step back and be like, look, is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to strike back or lash out or whatever? Best I just take my licks and I just move on, right? Before things get worse, right? And that's just something that will be brought up again in the film, right?
Right.
Get this great scene actually with well, because yeah, we have more characters. We have these group of like Latino boys, right? Pretty much just listening to some salsa music, right? Because yeah, just right. Well, what happened is that oh gosh, well, Mookie went over by Senior Love Daddy, brought some food, and dedicate a salsa song to Tina. So he's playing a song. And you know, the Latino guy's like, yes, it'll be popping the music, blah blah blah. And then Reader Raheem show up with his boombox and just watching him there. I see Dutch angles again. And I love it's just this, and I can relate to this so much, yeah. You know, oh, you playing your music? All right, let me just raise my volume high. Oh, that's how high you go, and just that back and forth though. But this love with
just the shared confrontation and everything. You know, the day get hotter now, so
yeah, exactly. So it's just boiling point. Exactly. And just take note of the hand that he uses to raise the volume. The hate hand. Because yes, we're gonna get to the levity and stuff in a bit. But yeah, when I watch, I was like, wait, now let me see what what he have on then well his knuckles and I see he have the heat.
What he does with which hand.
Okay. Yeah, you know what I mean? But yeah. But I just love where, well, you know, the one of the guys says, you know what, you got it, bro. And you just let him go. And just take note also when he walks past them, right? When he reaches by the corner, there's this kid that's like walking alongside him, and then he does this, you know what I mean, with his fist in the air, and like, oh, like he win a boxing match. But then take note also of the guys themselves, and they just start to cuss them out, like, yo, man. And one guy in particular saying, when he says, well, you're dead, Choco, man. Also alluding to what will happen soon enough with Raider Rahim, right? So we then get this great moment, which at first I was like, first time I saw it, I was wondering if it made sense the story, but the more I watch it, the more I understand it. And this is where we see well, John Savage, right, who is the white man who bought the brownstones. So you know, he with his bike runs over bugging out Air Jordans. He's like, yo, you know, and he's just like cussing them out there. And is, well, basically Spike talking about gentrification here. So it's like, oh, well,
right.
What give you the right to be on my block? What are you doing here on my street there? It's how him alongside with Martin and Ahmad and their friends talk about, yo, I should fuck you up 2 times, man, and all that kind of stuff. And man's like, yo, just leave me alone. You're like, sorry, Jen, but it's just how bugged out, literally bugs out in this moment that I love. And then, of course, they do the, well, something that Spike used to do in his early films, right? The moment, right? Where everybody just kind of does that, right?
Oh, I thought that was hysterical. That was absolutely hysterical.
But I mean, like, it's a real funny scene. It's clearly meant to be funny, but it's what is touching on the surface that dog as well.
Yeah, but they talk about where you come from and talk about Massachusetts or something, and they say, no, I was born in Brooklyn, which is hilarious. Yeah. And the Buggalout character, again, you know, the typical kind of black stereotype, black man. Sorry to say it, kind of true. I mean, I say stereotypes are based on truth with you know, the Jordans. You know, your scuffer man shoes there, you have a meltdown. That's going on there. But it worked, again, within the character. It's anger that just not aimed. As I always make the joke about anger, anger is like a metal. You can't just throw it on the battlefield. You have to hone it into a blade. You have to know how to use it and to strike. And fire at. You know, that's the analogy. And that's him. His anger is not tempered at all. He just raw energy. Don't know how to aim himself. Don't know what to focus on. You know, there's real injustice and real issues to address. He has not even come close to addressing it. But it's great and simple characterization that works in the context of the film.
That little piece where the guy says that he's from Brooklyn, for me that was that for me it was the I have black friends analogy.
No, I understand where you're coming from, because the whole like him.
I'm from Brooklyn. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he don't have to justify why he lives there. You know what I mean? It's like I'm down. It's like that. Like I'm down. You know what I mean? Without saying I'm down.
They half-ass it because like they use the entire paradigm of their credibility is in the geography of the situation, right? And then he just immediately eviscerates that with that line. But funny. But at the same time, I understand where Tracy coming from is like, yeah, at the same time, it does not address the issues. If you're making the thing, it's a way to diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
You know, to address it. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Then we get, a powerful scene in my opinion. This would be just a slow-mo of the same two cops in a car passing the three black men, right? I love the music for this, how forlorn it is. And it's just eyes just staring at each other. And then that same cop, what a waste. I hate that, but at the same time, it's just so impactful, right? I just love how one of the guys, like, you know, before we were rudely interrupted by New York's finest, you know what I mean? And that's when they go into the commentary that you mentioned, Ricardo, about, why that Koreans, they call him a Korean motherfucker, you know what I mean, have so much business and we're here where we're at, right? And they bring up a serious point. It's like, that building was abandoned for years and nobody did anything about it. But hey, if they wanted to, or if they had the initiative, they could have established your own business. But it's this guy came in and now you want to disrespect him because he's not black.
It's that is go both ways, because I want to address that, because in New York, again, a lot of history of what people don't forget is how much control of property that has happened in New York. So the building is quote unquote abandoned, but someone owns it. You know, it's not that it's completely abandoned or the state owns it or anything like that. So the only part of New York that black control, that they had any workable black control when it comes to owning something, was really Harlem, right? You couldn't. A lot of people black people who wanted to buy buildings and start businesses, and they try, and they were more or less shut out, right? You could argue why. I think you could argue if it's racism or if it's deliberate. There's something called redlining and blockbusting, all these activists to engage in shenanigans. And so I think that is where he was kind of coming from with that. You could go both ways with it, because at the same time, it had many situations where people could attempt to get through and you're just too expensive to shut them out. But it had active attempts to just undermine people who had the money, who wanted to buy it, and they just didn't do it. And then they see some Korean do it and they sell it to them instead. So it's all of that, right? It's go both ways, right?
Right. Good point. Right. So then we get probably one of the roughest moments in the show. This is where the same 14s, right, run into the mayor, right? And they just started to pick on him because, because you're drunk and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And it is Aussie's acting in this point where we talk about...
What you know about me? Can't even pee straight. Nary a one of you. What you know about anything? Unless you done stood in the door, listen to your 5 hungry children crying for bread. And you can't do a damn thing about it. Your woman standing there, you can't even look her in the eye. Unless you done that, you don't know me, my pain, my hurt, my feelings. You don't know shit.
But it's Ahmad's response to it. That's the punch in my gutter. He's talking about...
Yo, man, I hope you finish your little soliloquy, man. Because first of all, I've been peeing straight for years. You understand what I'm saying? And you're right. I wouldn't stand in the doorway and listen to my 5 children go hungry. I'd be out getting a job, doing something, anything to put food in their mouth. And you're right, I don't want to know your pain. I don't care to know your pain. You don't want to put yourself in this situation, man. Every day, I see you walk up and down this block, inebriated, never sober. But that's what DA stands for, the mayor, drunk ass. Fuck that, this man's getting mad. He don't get no respect here, you'll never get respect here, boy. How you gonna tell me how my parents raised me? I respect those who respect themselves. And you ain't gonna respect yourself.
I get where both sides are coming from, Jeb, and seeing them as like, even walk a mile in the mayor's shoes, Dread, but it's just how brutal he goes at him, though. It's just a moment that really get resonates with me.
We never see it, and I think this links back to probably his relationship with Sal, but it's implied that something along the lines of the mayor have some kind of trauma in the past. Not sure. Clearly, the alcoholism is to medicate. We never learn what it is or anything like that. But as I say, you see enough old people or whoever it is who just have you're thinking, oh, they just always have time, and you're just gonna roll your eyes at them, but you realize that it had like incredible amount of trauma decades ago that they never get over. It was never addressed. They don't know how to deal with it. They never had the support systems to deal with it. Because again, where your family, where you live in, where stuff like that. I don't think he was outright homeless, right? I don't really get that.
No, he lived that same brown, so that he was that he sat by. I believe he owns that, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but they never really say where he lives at. But I assume he does live somewhere, right?
Right.
And then, well, in true Spike Lee fashion, we get the fourth wall breaking scene. It's one of my favorite moments of the movie, actually, even though it has a lot of racial slurs in it. But I love how it starts up from the beginning, right? And this is where it starts off with Mookie talking to Pino and talk about like, yo, why you hate black people so much? Like, who's your favorite rock star? Prince. Who's your favorite musician? Who's your favorite comedian? Eddie Murphy. Who's your favorite musician right now? Michael Jackson, you know what I mean? It's like, your heroes are black, Jed. And then he brings up what Louis Farrakhan said about, one day and, the dream and all that kind of stuff. But it's what he says, and then you woke up. I was like, and I don't blame Mookie at all for cussing him out, though. And then you get that great scene, though. You can pull it up on YouTube, it's there, right? Where you're just seeing different characters just throw all these, basically slurs, that they would throw on people of other races. Yeah. So I don't know. It's something about
that was much.
Yeah, it's something about Pino's the 360 degrees spear chucking. Like, I don't know, like that. I love that. Like, I know it's terrible to hear, but just off the tongue you say it, like, you 360-degree monkey speak baboon, take your fucking pizza, go the fuck back to Africa, like just off the cuff like that. And then it ended off with the owner of the Korean store.
Oh yeah.
Which is played for laughs, but at the same time he goes in hard too, man. And then of course you see Senior Love Daddy come is like, yo, time out, man. You got to chill. And that's the double truth, Root. And that's so Spike Lee, but it's all style, but it makes a serious point. And I love that. I love that.
Oh yeah,
Spike was able to take risks and then literally stop the show to be like, "Hey, this is how it sounds like when you throw racial slurs at other people." But yeah, what you guys think about that particular montage?
Well,
great.
I think for me, good.
Go ahead.
I think for me, it's kind of it. Lee taps into the tensions that go on in different communities when you have like, because what he points out in that scene is that you have this little area of New York where you have like 5 different ethnicities with their own cultures and their own tensions and stuff, all existing, all with their own like all these kind of different tensions between each other. Everyone's got their own fair number of slurs they're throwing at each other. So you got black, Italian American, you got Puerto Rican, you got the Koreans, you got the cops, who I think with based on the slurs that the Korean guy was throwing at them are kind of like Irish American, and you got all these different communities stacked on top of each other in a very small space, and there's all these tensions. Like, I mean, I've lived in a bunch of different communities I've lived in a bunch of different places where you get different immigrant communities stacked one on top of the other, and you got generations, and you get all these tensions, and Lee like taps into that so brilliantly. And then of course, and like he does it in like the most Lee style, I love the fact that he puts the audience perspective of the person being yelled at. Like that is genius. Like you are,
and of course
like,
the handheld the handheld camera work fits it as well too. Yeah,
exactly. It further emphasizes that. Like, it puts you in that. And then of course Samuel L. Jackson just comes in at the end, just like, whoa, time out. It's one of my favorite moments in the movie. Honestly, it's so like he manages to distill so many of the themes and ideas and like a lot of the more complicated themes and ideas of the movie in that one sequence, and just brilliantly.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Anything you guys want to weigh in on? Tracy and Ricardo, anything you want to weigh in on that scene?
Right. So it's the id moment, right? It's the id moment. It's just that happy to just the foundational lizard brain tribalism of people.
Yeah.
This period of time, this was in 80s, 90s, this was the tail end of a lot of these multiculturalist communities, especially in the inner city, where it just doesn't structure properly well, and because of I would argue, I'll make the case for just where the money went and how they dealt with crime at the time, and the thing. God, this was he mayor at the time? Ed Koch, I think. I remember.
Yeah,
was he mayor
who well, the Korean guy brings up in his
right.
moment. Yeah.
Right, and it's such a in New York, and as I say, sorry to say it, but how to handle multiculturalism is, as I say, good fences make good neighbors. I'm of that variety of thinking. It's like I believe in multiculturalism. You can't just slap it in just so. And they nailed that. They nailed how New York didn't really do that properly. Who had to get what apartment and when, and handling resources and wealth. And it does all these things come to a boiling point. Again, we only see it from the perspective of those on the street, and you can't get into these larger issues. But the Spike nails it in that sense. He just does the perspective argument, and then you get to see it just the id, straight up id sequence. It just good. But it works.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tracy, anything you want to just swing on that scene?
No, for me that was like the just below the surface of humanity scene for me, because even in Trinidad, where you have different communities and stuff, there's ways that we talk about each other.
That's
there's
true.
ways that we talk to each other. And so we do the whole very nice and smiley and unity and all that gloriousness. But then sometimes you walk into somebody's house and you hear it, or you have friends and you hear that thing just below the surface. So that montage for me is like the just below the surface kind of mentality and sensibility of how everybody really, quote unquote, really thinks, especially on a day that's already very frustrating temperature wise. And it was a lot. It was for me sitting and watching that. It was a lot.
Right.